but it's opening people up to new and different ways of thinking that is really critical. And people get stuck in corporate environments quite often, right? And senior managers do. I've been not me personally, but somebody's a VP of a large company. They're there because they're the smartest person in the room.
Coventures world, but certainly our community peers on demand, as well as any of the events that you feel fits for you, and have a dialogue and ongoing basis. With that, anybody have a closing thought, comment, idea?
Thanks for having us. It's been a while.
And thanks to everybody here for your commitment to making things better. We're all aligned that way. Making things better for our children and our grandchildren, as a saying quite often, is more powerful.
Super. Well, it's been great, guys. Anything I could do, let me know. It's been a pleasure.
We'll reach out for sure. Thank you. Take care, guys.
Thank you, Rocky. Bye. Thanks, Rocky. Bye.
Enjoy the week. Let's hear from Carrie. If you could say a little bit more. Carrie's involved in multiple areas. I've known him as a connector for staffing and recruiting. He stepped into insurance more recently, particularly in the teaching area and the public sector. So, Carrie, if you could say a little bit more, what is the big idea that you have? Because I'm thinking with staffing, there's something going on with all the public. I heard 10,000 people are going to be let go in some particular area. Education, I don't know. I don't know where these people go for jobs. And I thought that's a great opportunity for you, but you also stepped in insurance. Carrie, what's the big idea going forward, the balance of the year?
Well, I guess if you're talking about recruiting, obviously we're definitely at a point where it's still going to be not the greatest market. It's just what it is. I mean, it's very tough to find good talent these days. Companies are not hiring recruiters, they're doing it themselves. They don't want to spend the money. And a lot of that is to do with they don't feel they need it. I mean, and the thing is, it's interesting because when you bring on a new person or whatever it is, you're lucky if they're going to stay there 2 or 3 years anymore. That market has totally changed now. It's not the longevity anymore, like you just talked about longevity. It's a short term. They get their experience, they move on, and that's the way it is. There's no loyalty in the way it is. So on the recruiting side, that's kind of what I would say if that's what you're kind of asking me about, giving on that one. And on the insurance side, there's a lot of opportunity on that because we have a very interesting, I'll call it the baby boomers. Okay. There's a lot of stuff going on. So many baby boomers are retiring, so many different things going on, and they're not protected by the risk assessments of insurance and why that's important. So I'm offering a lot of different things to long-term care, life insurance, different things of that nature. Actually, I'll tell you a terrible story that happened yesterday. Um, my friend's father ended up having a blood clot, and he ended up having to go, he actually got a stroke, and he had to go to the hospital. And this is unbelievable. People don't know this, Rocky, but he was sent to a local hospital that wasn't a level 1 trauma center, and they actually had to airlift him to another hospital, which was only a half hour away, by the way, in a helicopter. People don't realize that there's something out there called MASSA. It's actually an emergency insurance that covers ambulance and air ambulance. It could be $50,000 for an air ambulance. The reason I bring this up, this could totally jeopardize someone's financial future because they may not have that money. So a lot of times, even with the market right now and where we are, I do want to mention one more thing. I just thought about this. If a lot of people are worried about this volatile market, market is based on emotion and fear, right? There's something out there right now that actually goes along with what I'm talking about. It's called asset protection, and it actually protects you on the downside. So you could have all the upside potential, but no downside risk, and it's actually tax deferred. It's actually a lot of people, baby boomers, a lot of people older, I'm offering this to because they don't know where the market's going, and their time frame is not the same. So when you talk about longevity, you're living 20 years, 30 years in retirement. But the problem is if you're an older person, 60, 70, whatever it is, you don't have that time to get up back to where it was. In 2008, we had a 45% decline in the market. It took 10 years to get back to that. When we're older, we don't have that time. So there's a lot of different kinds of programs I offer, just kind of give you an idea, that help individuals I also work with businesses too, of course, too, when it comes to insurance, disability insurance, different things of that nature. I don't know if that's what you're looking for, but you asked me a question, I'm kind of throwing it out there.
Well, we never know what people are looking for, but the market is going down. If you're doing puts, you're doing well. So that would be interesting what you have, Carrie. And also
Yes.
nobody or very few people, I can tell you, I don't have $50,000 for an airlift.
Yeah,
That
right.
would,
No one does. That's a big deal right now. So there's actually
yeah.
a policy that you can get $39 a month, $49 a month, very inexpensive to protect your future, really, if something, God forbid, happens. So, anyways, that's kind of what I'm doing. Thank you for letting me have the floor. And that's kind of it.
No, this is good, but I'm just curious with all the people getting laid off from the government. I've heard the number of 10,000 people. Veterans are getting laid off. Well, I don't think anybody's protected. So those are intelligent people going out into the marketplace. There's got to be a way that somebody would pick them up. So can you speak to that? Because I would think if you put a smart labor force out there from the government, that the commercial space would pick them up. Does that not make sense to you? It makes sense to me, but I'm not in that business.
I mean, yeah. I mean, so you're saying with the government, with the jobs being laid off, everyone, is that what you're asking me about what's happening to them?
Yes, somebody fired the people that deal with nuclear reactors, nuclear bombs. I don't know
Right, right,
who could
right, right,
use
right.
those people, but maybe somebody in the commercial market could say, "Oh, yeah, I'm in Ukraine. We could use some people."
Of
Uh,
course, 100%. Yeah, I mean,
well,
I don't know.
that might be a big discussion, but certainly the insurance I think is always stable. What would make you different? Because the things I'm starting to hear is very unique that I've never heard before. Insurance to cover airlifts and or insurance to cover mitigate any investments. That's unique to me. So, Carrie,
Yeah.
what makes you unique? I wonder if that's it or if there's more.
No, so I am self-employed. I go through an organization, it's called AMBA, AMBA, and we do a lot, as I said, with retired people, teachers, that different kinds of that nature. It's an association that you belong to. And by part of being part of this association, you get access to a lot of different benefits at a reduced price. And some of those programs that I'm talking to you about are called supplemental benefits. I think I mentioned that
Okay.
earlier. Two of the main ones that people don't even think about are asset protection and this ambulance stuff called MASSA. It's called Medical Air Service Association Policy Program. And what it is it's really a program that protects you if God forbid something happens to you, because it's not a matter of time that's going to happen. I mean, we also offer stuff to give you another idea. I think I mentioned this early, guaranteed um, insurance where you never get turned down. So, like for instance, a lot of people have long-term, maybe don't have long-term care insurance, or they don't qualify for long-term care insurance because they're sick or whatever, or it's too expensive. We have other programs that we offer that's called short-term care or guaranteed trust life. We can offer that to them. God forbid someone has a kidney problem or a cancer. I deal with it all the time. These are programs that we offer that people don't even know that's out there. And I didn't know it until I actually came on board with this stuff. It's amazing. Major companies like Aetna, Mutual of Omaha, major companies that offer this kind of stuff, it's at your fingertips. But we have a deal with our association that we offer through these type of programs.
Thanks, Gary. Let me open it up to see if anybody has a question, comment, thought, feedback,
Sure.
especially with Ricardo. He defied death 3 times and God.
Unbelievable.
So he probably would be a good candidate for insurance. Maybe, maybe not. Ricardo, go
Never
ahead.
know. Never know.
So it's kind of funny, and most people don't know that a lot of the ambulance business world, they're not necessarily associated to the fire department. They are independently. A lot of them are companies all by their own self in their own vehicle and through MTs. And
Uh-huh.
what people are not aware is that 99% of the population, they believe that that is sponsored by the government, and it's not. Literally, almost every single ambulance, they are independent contractors hired
Yes.
by either the people, but the average ambulance bill can run from $3,000 to $5,000 just for a single injury. And
Yep.
our insurance company, they're covering the ambulance airlift, because the service is actually cheaper for the insurance entity to have a that offer, because it's very rare to have people to go and airlift, unless otherwise it's a critical condition. Like for example, when I had my heart surgery, I needed to be transferred to one hospital to another that was only 20 miles away.
Yep.
And they needed to transfer me on an ambulance because I had dual IVs and I was a very critical condition.
Oh, that's
And due
terrible.
to the fact that that took place, five ENT individuals were in that ambulance. And they actually explained to me that they were independent. They were not associated to the hospital.
No network. Yes.
A completely different network. And all those individuals are literally, like, when I saw the bill, it was like 7 grand for
Uh-huh.
20 miles away across. So airlift, you would have to be associated to a major surgery related to like liver transplant or heart transplant that they cannot do in that one hospital. Then again,
Level one trauma center. Yeah.
mine happened on the first of the year, and the
Oof.
first day of the first New Year day. So there was no doctors. I ended
Um,
up having to wait 5 days to get an operation, and because there was no doctor. So when they transferred me, it's not like I could get in my car and drive myself to the hospital because
exactly.
there would be
Exactly.
liabilities. So all that stuff is taking into place. So yeah, I understand your point in relation to what insurance liabilities are in these days. But everything else in the world, the products of the insurance entity, there's always some kind of economic value behind it that is going to benefit many different people. And
100%. 100%.
there,
Very
there are
true.
different there are different products out there. And I believe that every insurance company should have that in place, but they don't. You're right. They don't. They don't have ambulatory
Nope.
requisition pay. And
Right.
sometimes that's why you have to drive yourself to the hospital.
No, and well, it's true because, okay, health insurance has networks.
Yeah.
Ambulances don't have networks. They could charge whatever damn they please.
Yeah.
And it's actually terrible. And they've been trying to actually solve that problem. And they still haven't solved that problem. So people can be out 30, 40, $50,000 on an air ambulance. I mean, this coverage I'm talking about is called MASA. It's also offered internationally too. So let's say, give you a quick story. I know someone who was traveling to Ireland. She is going there for a conference. She's in her room. She gets a terrible headache. She says, "Oh my God, I can't get rid of this headache." She goes to a hospital in Ireland. They find out that she has a brain tumor. Unbelievable. And that brain tumor, they had to do surgery like not to like almost immediately. She said, "I don't want to be in Ireland." I mean, even though the healthcare probably is good, they flew her back to Seattle and she took a care there, and they didn't charge her a dime for that because she had MASA. That's
Wow.
that's the difference. That's why this thing is so valuable. And I wanted to bring it up because no one knows about this stuff. It's crazy.
I think Ricardo just bought the insurance from you, but he's left. I think he's stepping back.
He got off the phone so quick. He was so excited about it. He left. No, I'm just kidding.
I think he left to make a phone call to you. But
Oh no,
Carrie,
I lost the signal.
so Carrie, we should have a discussion because I'm in Miami. We're going to have our conferences on a monthly basis, or at least right
Okay.
now, starting June or July. And the target market is, quite frankly, anybody over 20. So longevity is not just for the
Doesn't matter. Yeah, it could be young,
100-year-olds.
old, it doesn't matter. MASA does not, there's no underwriting. It's very simple. It could be anywhere from people 20 years old to 100 years old. It doesn't really matter.
Well, the
Great
20,
product.
30-year-olds probably don't think they need insurance,
Yeah,
but they do
they're
need
invincible. They're
healthcare.
not gonna, nothing's gonna happen to them. Trust me. But
But
then one other thing I was gonna tell you, that asset protection is another huge thing that we offer. These are people who don't want to take a risk in the market at all, and they want to know their money's there, but their money only goes up and never goes down. That's something else we offer. That is another two of my huge things.
that would be for the richer people because we are going to target those as well. Because longevity
Definitely,
brings those people.
definitely.
Sometimes it may be too late to bring them back from life if they're 80,
Well, it
but
is what it is. Yeah, yeah.
certainly put whatever you like in the chat box about who you are. But let's hear from Wayne.
Perfect. I'm
Wayne
going
is
to be
in
right back.
beautiful
Thank
Canada,
you.
and I'm impressed, Wayne, that you could actually jump in the background with that cliff. So you're in a healthy space, but you're doing something wonderful for not just communities, but also for businesses in terms of bringing them together. Can you share maybe what are the big ideas we're talking about, Wayne, in your business going forward the balance of this year? Wayne?
Well, we've And one of the things I'm trying to do is simplify, right? Because I've been doing this for so long that it all makes sense to me. And there's so many complex pieces that I'm pulling together. So part of it is how do I simplify the messaging and then get with the right partners to take it out to market in a much broader way than what we have. Because we've applied our models in just about anything you could imagine, like with cities and had them help with different decisions, like in Scottsdale. We help them understand that one of the biggest reasons, and it sounds simple once you get there, but we had to get the analytics in front of people to prove it. But one of the big issues that they were having in Scottsdale was that their young people would go away to college and not come home. But they would also start a riot if you tried to build a building more than 3 stories, right? And they didn't kind of put the two and two together that the younger people didn't want to buy a 1 acre or one, a large house zone. They wanted to live in a community where they could walk downtown, and it was a difference with the generations that was there. And our systems and all the people that we engaged in the conversation helped to create that change. And over the last few years, they've been building not high ones, but 6, 7 story in the greater downtown area. And they've had a huge amount of their younger people coming back now. So they're getting a more balanced and multi-generational environment. And it sounds overly simplified, but being able to bring some of that knowledge and information together on a simple community application like that was so critical. And then, one of the things that, we talk about, and I speak at conferences about it, is that, years ago, your community was your safe place. And I don't know about you guys, but, when I was a kid, mom would open the door, be home for dinner. You knew all your neighbors. If somebody needed help, people kind of came out, even though we lived in a large city. Now, your safer place is your work or online community. And so many people don't even know the people that live near them. They don't really know their neighbors or anything like that. And a big part of the human longevity and mental and physical well-being is based upon our connectivity to other people. So being able to kind of, in our analytics, help to connect groups that way. And we've put a package together on it because, before we've been selling it out through individual organizations and things, as services for them, for their culture and things. But what we're doing is we're looking at packaging this now, under a possibilities banner of what's possible when you and others get together, share ideas, work on things, and build on those types of relationships and the energy, shall we say, that's shared. And some of the words we use are a little bit different, but people, when you ask people what's possible for your society, you get all sorts of different types of conversations. If you say to them, "Hey, what are you going to do to fix it or make it better?" Well, I don't know. Yeah, there's certain mental blocks that are there. So our systems are all designed around that. So we're looking at now, we're talking with many different partners to take it out to market. And one of the things we've got is a URL called possibilities.now. And we're looking at making community ones, and we're launching out an Arizona possibilities.now initiative as in an initial phase. And we've got 3 or 4 other regions, a Toronto one and so a few others that we're going to launch out in the initial phase, where people are going to invite people that they know to invite other people that they know to go to the site, share their thoughts and ideas, and then people come back in and we share what some of the community wants, and then they can kind of become members of this and work better together, if that makes sense.
Well, it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
From what I remember, it works, or you focus not just communities, but also businesses. And the thought I had is because this came up in my church, it's Presbyterian church. They want to know their community. It's in Miami, so it's growing really well. And of course, the church is up of a community, which is made up of individuals and business leaders and wealthy leaders in this particular community. So it could expand because you can start with the community and get to know you and then bring it into the business environment. So it would
Yeah.
make sense to me to approach a vertical market like the church, especially because they're having a hard time retaining their population, retaining their members.
Oh,
Our
absolutely.
church seems to be a little bit the exception, but the majority, I think, people are dissolving. So would it make sense to approach a vertical market like that? Communities just seems a little broader than churches seems a little narrower. Obviously, a
Yeah.
niching makes sense. Wayne, what do you think about that?
Well, communities are broader for sure, and the world community, people think of community being like a localized community, right? They don't necessarily think, but organizations have communities within organizations. There are people who work together, who connect with each other, who are very supportive in that way. And then you have your vertical communities, right? Where you got people like your church is a community in itself within the community. And so, we're kind of, so how do we create and so some of our packaging on this is, how do we create thriving enterprises, thriving communities, from a demographic perspective, and thriving communities from a psychological vertical perspective, right? In terms of, because there's really the three key areas of it. And how do we start blending some of those in together so we can help people understand where there's commonality, right? Because there's historically been so much division within the different areas, right? I live in this city or this town and it's got a different community than that one. I follow this religion and it's different than that one. And it's into a kind of a right wrong thing all too often rather than a commonality of that. And there are some things that can separate people on it, but for the most part, people agree on so many of these. So it's right. And we're looking, okay, how do we kind of position that in a way where, because people psychologically will decide what a community is before you have a chance to even tell them what it is, right? We attach words to particular areas. So we're wide open to hearing, is there some other wording? Is there some other way of positioning this that makes sense where we can apply it in a broader sense to humans? We've kind of used the term humanity at times because we've got some very involved humanity models, which is how people treat each other and the impact that that has on organizational and community outcomes. But what are some ways that we can position this so people don't have that cognitive, we don't have to get through the cognitive hurdle of what it is as people first hear about it.
Yeah, before I open it up for Ricardo Carey to give you feedback, here's a different way to position it, Wayne. I'm thinking the communities and churches and businesses are not your primary vertical market. I think they're your secondary. Here's who I think the primary is. I think it's the Kerry Rothbarts with insurance, to use this as a tool to open up a dialogue in insurance. It's a community like Ricardo Matos that's involved with franchises, with different areas, that opens up a way to have a conversation about his area by promoting unity, promoting what you have. So I think your market is, the primary should be thought leaders, influencers, people that are already have a community, can understand it very well, and can use what you have as a leader item for their own business so everybody starts winning.
Identity model, and I'll just give you the quick story on that. I was doing some work. You're familiar with Arizona State University and their reputation. They're ranked the most innovative university. And a number of years ago, it was pre-COVID, they identified that in a lot of their programs, they were turning out students who were less socially responsible than the ones they were getting. So they were taking nice kids, turning them into jerks to get financial outcomes, right? And families would pay 80 grand for their kid to go there a year for their kid to go there to come back into the family business and make them all more money because they had been stripped of some of their humanity before that. And unfortunately, that is happening more often and has happened in more places than we think, which is some of the challenges that we have with the problem, because it's not just about money to us, but it is to a lot of others. So they had identified that. So they had heard some research work we had done years ago, when some of our clients were doing all the right things, but weren't getting the results. And I sat back one day and I said, are we trying to get blood from a stone? Or is there capacity for further engagement? The old saying of blood from a stone. And so I ended up working with a couple of students from a local university, and we found a border town in Israel where people were living happy, healthy, productive lives well into their 90s. And this was before blue zones. This was well before blue zones. And we studied what went on, and we interviewed them and all that or the students did, and it was really quite amazing. And they identified a couple of things. One is they did eat healthy for sure. That was a big part of it. But the second part was that between when you were born and roughly 10 years of age, your brain is physically forming. and coming about. Between the ages of roughly 10 and 21, your brain is emotionally forming, where you're taking in all this information and the ideologies and things which impact you for the rest of your life. Humans are very judgmental. AI is predictive. Humans are judgmental. So we program our young people to think certain things are true for those 10 years. And if you think about it, a computer programmer can program a computer that 1 + 1 = 3, and it'll kick out 3 every time. Humans are not that dissimilar. Humans can be programmed to think something's true, even if it's not. But we have that judgmental side, which causes stress. And a big part of burnout that we have is this us really constantly rethinking. So in this border town, they literally did not indoctrinate their young people, and they felt that that was. And when they became 21, they were invited. You can come to synagogue if you want to, and they only had like 65% in a highly religious town that actually were part of that. So but the longevity and the quality of community was nuts there. So while I was doing that project, I was introduced to a fellow who was running this thing called Project Humanities, and he wanted to make the world a better place and all that kind of stuff. And ASU is the big, beautiful campus, you know what it's like. And I go to see him, and he's like parked in the basement of a building, and we're all crowded around this little tiny room crammed in. And he's telling me about this project and everything. And he's very passionate about it. He's got his activism side for sure. And I said, Neil, this is such an important project. Why are you in the basement? He said, well, because you can't measure humanity. It's only the disciplines that you can measure that get funding, right? So I literally left that day, and I was always thought our analytics are there because we have a unique algorithm that measures the gap between how important something is and how well it's working. We call it the expectation gap index. But I literally went away that night and isolated 14 constructs of humanity, modernized the language so it's not weird for people, and we put it into our model. And pre-COVID, 100% of the companies that had a high humanity score were making more money. So I'm on a bit of a mission right now to create a business case for humanity, to help those leaders understand that if you absolutely support this type of behavior, you will also make more money. So they get out of the way. Because we're not necessarily going to change their way of thinking, but if we can work within those realms, we have a very powerful opportunity in that. And it goes along with some of the other well-being stuff that we have, because the higher the humanity scores, the better sleep people are getting, because we ask unique elements in our well-being side. Like I wake up in the morning refreshed, I have energy left at the end of the day. These are leading indicators on so many other wellness and well-being elements. And we have improvements in all of those physical and emotional well-being elements when the humanity scores are higher. So that's really a big part of where the passion is on this, and to get the different groups understanding and working well together. And it doesn't mean we can't agree on things, because alignment and it is not about right and wrong. And unfortunately, our societies have gone from we're different to I'm right and you're wrong, and it's replacing the we're different component of things. And we have so much of that division happening now that we need to break those cycles of thinking, as
You
people.
believe that that ideology between right and wrong is based on perceptions of ideas or beliefs, or based on what they actually see or they have experienced?
It's conditioning. I mean,
So
there are certain things that we would agree on, that, murdering somebody is wrong, and most of us would agree on that. But when you come to some of the softer elements of society, of religion, of different ways of approaching things, they're different, not necessarily right and wrong. And when you embrace differences, you actually sometimes add the two up, and you can have 1 + 1 = 4. Right? But it's opening people up to new and different ways of thinking that is really critical. And people get stuck in corporate environments quite often, right? And senior managers do. I've been not me personally, but somebody's a VP of a large company. They're there because they're the smartest person in the room, and
think, right?
they get
Think they are
stuck.
the smartest, right?
Well, they get stuck in where they are, right? And we've got multiple generations of people in rural areas.
I think Corey has words to say. He wants to say something. Do you have something to say? No, from here.
So, Wayne, I'm going to just add on to this thing. So, you talk about humanity, you talk about community, right? Because that's really important today. Unfortunately, we lost a lot of that.
Absolutely.
unfortunately, that's the biggest problem is, even if you like our president, you don't like our president, right? Everyone's like about democracy, democracy. This is what it's all about, right? But at the end of the day, how do we get back to where we need to be? Because I'm actually Jewish. Okay. I'm going to tell you right away. Okay.
That's
Me
good. Yeah.
too.
All right.
I got
And
lots of friends who are. Yeah.
yeah. And look what happened with Israel and all this stuff and everything. And you never would imagine this stuff. And before that, it was the Asian community. Like all this stuff that's happening is we lost that cohesiveness of our culture. And it's really hard to figure this out because what do we do to get there? And like you said, we like you said, corporations. You go to our job, we're at our job, we just work. The concept work to live or live to work, right? And a lot of people are not enjoying that aspect anymore. They're stressed, they're not happy. For me personally, right before COVID, I was working at companies. I was a sales guy. I love people. I love to help people, right? After COVID hit, I said, I'm done. I'm going to be a self-employed individual. I'm not going to work for anybody anymore because I'm never treated well anymore. No one's treated well in companies. That's why there's so much stress. That's why there's so many heart attacks early in life. Why do I do insurance? Because I
Competition.
want to, pardon me?
Competition.
Competition. Yeah, it's constant competition. But I want to put myself out there by myself and say, look, I'm here to help you. It's not about making a sale all the time. It's
Yeah.
about helping someone. I'll give you another real quick example. Rocky might appreciate this, but as a recruiting company that I am, no one answers their phone when you call recruiters anymore. It's kind of funny. So this guy calls me up and I answered the phone. He was shocked that I answered the phone. I said, "This is Carrie from Staffing Together." He's like, "Oh my God, you answered the phone." And he said, "Do you have any jobs?" And I said, "I got to be honest, I don't. But here's what I could do for you. I can introduce you to lots of people because I have over 10,000 connections on LinkedIn, but I also go to networking events and I could bring you to introduce you." Well, you know what happened? I brought him to this event. He ends up meeting someone at a company. He ends up doing this. He was so grateful. And he kept saying, all he did is he answered the phone. I didn't even care if I got money on the guy. It was the idea that I helped him. He was going through, I mean, his stress level was up to here. He ended up in the hospital. This guy was so stressed out because he didn't have a job. He was laid off.
Yeah.
These are things that happen. We have to become to ourselves and say, look, there's always a light at the end of the tunnel. But when it comes to community and everything, we have to somehow get that cohesiveness back. We're missing it big time. And it
I
just
agree.
gets worse and worse.
I agree with you completely.
Because of
And
automations these days, right?
Too
All these
much,
automations. Yeah.
too much, too
yeah,
much. Anyways,
yeah.
that's my piece there, guys. Anyways, I had to
Well,
get
to your point, we have this divisive nature of things, right? We've got activism, which is aggressively going after things, and things which is, considered sort of far left ideas, and then you've got protectionism or traditionalism, which is protect traditional values, which can kind of get stuck in the past to a certain degree. And you guys will laugh at this. I'm always coming up with weird stuff, and I have a
Well,
pet.
I say that it all comes out to one thing. We are all selfish because we all want what we want. And a lot of times we can attain what we want because we live in a very competitive environment, irrelevant to the fact what society wants to tell you. We are all striving for great abundance and success, right? We all are trying to create economical wealth for our family, for ourselves, and to continue. It's not about getting rich, it's about being able to live and be sustainable in human society.
bingo.
And a lot of things have changed dramatically to the human existence. The people are so much living in turmoil because they cannot have what they used to have, right? All the people that were laid off from the government, I talked to a lot of them recently. None of them want to work for themselves because they want that steady paycheck. I tell people, you want to be a rock star, work for yourself. Because don't tell me how good of a rock star you are working for someone else who get to pay you every day or a week a money for
And they
being
own
there.
you. And they own you.
Exactly, and they own you. That's not you being a rock star. You being a rock star is making changes
Do your
in
passion.
your life in 3 to 5 years and be wealthy, independent, or all beyond
Yeah.
everybody else's life
Do your
expectations.
passion. I will never go back to working for anybody ever again. I'm 53 years old. I am done working for anybody. I'm done. That's all I
I'm,
can.
Yeah.
yeah. Same
Last time I had a job was 1988. So
There you go. There you go.
it's a
Uh,
Why
better
we're
life.
here. That's why we're here, all self-employed individuals.
All
Yep.
right, Rocky. I know you got to do your speech.
You got
Well,
5 minutes. No,
I
just
certainly
kidding.
want to invite you, Wayne, to just share more about that. I think, as Ricardo was talking, I think the headwinds for what you're doing, Wayne, is social media. That's taken over the country. And so I am grateful and glad that you're on our side. But let's hear from Ricardo Matos. Ricardo, like I said, has defied life
Death.
3 times and is going strong. He's involved with over 800 franchises. He has a distribution business in Miami. And so,
That's
Ricardo, when we
killing it.
have our seminars, you ought to come to Miami. So, Ricardo, if you could say more about what are the big ideas you're heading with to close this
Uh,
off?
we were doing the hyper delivery. It's up and running, moving forward. We are getting that left and right. I passed it on to other people. 37 individuals are taking over the delivery aspect in Miami and the short delivery systems. We're now going after, still always in the medical field aspect. We're still working on that. And we are now currently entering into the PO entity of the services for providing, from insurance aspect to human resources. We're going to that niche also. We are getting a new partner into our organization and bringing into the PO system for all the companies and entities. And of course, we are also always expanding the knowledge and ideas of tea the world. We are bringing tea organically from all over the world to the United States. It is a $185 billion industry in the United States. It doesn't seem to be not even in 1 billion in sales at all, due to the fact that people are now understanding and aware that tea is more health beneficial to stress relief, to keep maintaining people looking young. Look at me, 70 years old. People don't believe it, but hey, you know what? Consumption of tea is the greater human existence of entity. So we try to convey that to facts of the humanity by bringing tea the world to society and humanity. And the goal in the new business in the 2025 is to not only explain the knowledge and the wisdom to people of how to live a better life, not only in the workplace, but also in the health life. To they can grow and expand to live beyond the age of 77 years of age. I tell people, and this is my own perceptions of things, they're based on the life expectancy of 77 years old. If you reach 100% of that, you're already an Asian. In other words, not agent, but ancient, the older man, of men of wisdom, because to be able to live beyond the age of 77 years of age in today's existence, it's a miracle. That's what I call my 100%.
My father's 85.
Yeah, there you go. He's
Doesn't look a day over 85, by the way. Just
there you
seeing
go.
great health. Thank you.
Especially in North America and
Knock
other
on wood.
areas, lifespan is actually different. But yes.
Yeah. So I'm 53 years old. I'm just like you, Kerry. And due to the fact that I have gone so many adversities in my life, I struggle to stay ahead and survive and live, exercising, staying physically active. And I try not to focus on the naysayers of the world, of the stupidity of humanity and society. I try to look the positive outcome of life so I can live beyond the life of expectancy. And that's my goal in today's existence of life. So I see things a little bit different than most people see different things, because someone told I speak like a philosopher. It's not that I speak like a philosopher. I speak with the intent of understanding how I should continue my life and a prosperity of happiness, not necessarily financial wealth, but the ability to help others to create economic wealth for themselves, to better life. And the economic wealth of themselves could be health. It doesn't have to be a monetary entity, right?
Don't
It
have
can
your health, you have nothing, by the way, just so you know that.
That's right. That's right. And health is all the key of humanity. And
100%.
we're striving for that. So